Let's talk about using graphic novels in your homeschool to foster meaningful discussions with your kids. Hi, I'm Mary Wilson, homeschooling mom of 4 kids and an online book club teacher. And over the past few years, I have taught a weekly graphic novel discussion group on Outschool, and we have had a blast. I got to tell you, I have read a lot of graphic novels, discussing them each week with kids. And these are 5 of the graphic novels that I really enjoyed and decided to include in a graphic novel discussion guide that would help parents do exactly what I do in my weekly book club with kids. And that is to take a graphic novel and spend some time discussing the story, where you can have rich and meaningful discussions about plot elements and foreshadowing and characterization and theme and all of those wonderful things. And then to spend time looking at specific graphics in the book and how they work to tell the story. This could be a variety of things, but the guide will help you start to identify them. I have found that with some practice and a little guidance, kids get really good at starting to notice the ways the graphics are being used to tell the stories. And with some help and some guidance, I know parents will feel very comfortable having these discussions with their kids as well. And eventually won't need the guide. But today I want to go ahead and walk you through the guide that focuses on these 5 books and show you what you can expect. All right, let's go through the 5 graphic novels that you will need to use this guide. The first one is Measuring Up. This is such a fun graphic novel that combines the main character's Taiwanese culture with her love of cooking and her adoration of Julia Child. It's also about moving to a new place and friendships. The next graphic novel covered in this guide is one of the very popular graphic novels in the series by Kayla Miller. These graphic novels are all about friendships and navigating the tween world. And in this particular friendship, the new girl is going to clash with our lead character. But don't worry, everything works out. All right. Another graphic novel, a different type of superhero story in the book Sword of Super. The 2 main characters are brother and sister, and they have been given superhero powers that they never really wanted. But now they have them. But their dad is hesitant to let them use them because he knows everything that comes with being a superhero, including all the danger. So this is the story of them beginning to test their powers. All right, in Glitch, our main character loves her video game. And this one feels really real. In fact, so real that it draws her into the game literally. And her best friend has to join her and help her out. And finally, we have the graphic novel version of the popular series Wings of Fire. This is book 1, The Dragonette Prophecy, and this is such a fun, epic fantasy journey for students. All right, let's take a look and see how the graphic novel discussion pack will help you discuss these graphic novels with your tweens. So when you open the graphic novel discussion pack, of course, you will find the table of contents, and all 5 graphic novels are included. You'll find an introduction where I go over some of the ways that I began falling in love with the graphic novel format and a little bit of encouragement to you as a parent. I have some ideas on how to use this guide, and it lets you know exactly what you're going to find. For each of these titles, you're going to find icebreaker questions, discussion questions that are focused on the story, questions that are focused on the graphics, and a fun extension activity. This is exactly how I lead my online book clubs. We talk about the story, and then we focus on the graphics. Of course, there are some suggested schedules, and for those who the graphic novel format is new, I have some helpful vocabulary you can use as you're talking with your child. Then we get to the first graphic novel. We're going to go ahead and go through this guide for measuring up and take a look at what you're going to find for each of the titles. At the start of each section, you're going to find a summary of the story, so you have a basic idea of what the story is about. And then you're going to have your icebreaker question. Now, the icebreaker question is the same for every book. I have found that children love to share their favorites. So I like to start our discussion by just asking what their favorite moment was in the story and why they liked it. Then I go ahead and get into some specific questions about the story. For each of the 4 questions, you'll find some suggested answers. I don't want you to get too hung up on them. They are just some ideas for you and your children to discuss, especially if none are coming to you. But if your children have ideas to share that are not in the suggestive responses, go ahead and listen and encourage them to come up with their own thoughts as well. All right, next we will have a discussion about the graphics. And again, I like to have an icebreaker question to talk about their favorite panel in the book. Kids love, again, to share their favorites. So asking them what their favorite graphic was is a great way to get that discussion going. All right, and then you'll notice in this section, it's going to ask you to turn to specific pages to discuss the graphics with your child. So for example, on page 143, we see that there is an italicized font when Cece is talking with her grandmother. We have words that were in italics that were not in italics before. You can look, and it's not in italics earlier. But when she's talking to her grandmother, it is written differently. Of course, the reason for this is because she's talking to her grandmother in their native language. Now, some kids might think it's because they're on the computer, but I would send them back to pages 8 and 9, another place where you see the italics so that you know she's speaking in their native language. Another example that you can discuss, just to show another idea here, is on page 170. The graphics help to convey the strong emotions that are involved in this discussion or argument between Cece and her dad. So as we look at page 170, you'll see things like the changing colors as Cece is thinking about what was being said, from a blue to a red. And red is often anger. It doesn't have to be, but it often is. Then we have this special panel behind Cece and her dad. Notice the sharp, jagged edges, kind of representing their conversation and the sharpness of it and the anger. And again, we have the red. We also have this panel being divided in a harsh way to kind of show the division between the way that each of them are thinking. So many great things to discuss on this page. And again, there's plenty of ideas for you in case this is new. But I promise, as you continue discussing these graphic novels and looking at different ways the graphics help tell the story, you will get better and better at this, and you won't need the guide. In fact, I encourage everyone at the end to see if they can spy more ways that the graphics help tell the story. I have a feeling by the time you get to the 5th graphic novel in the guide, you're going to have plenty that you're noticing on your own. Finally, for each book, there is an extension activity. And of course, this book is all about cooking, so baking makes plenty of sense. Finally, at the end, when you're finished all of the graphic novels, you'll find an extension activity for writing. Your student will be encouraged to make their own graphic novel and incorporate some of the elements they saw in these stories. It doesn't have to be long. It can be just a few panels. Maybe they think about one specific event in their day and they draw it graphically. It could be their morning routine. It could be a fun field trip they went on. It doesn't need to be pages and pages. And what I would suggest is copy these pages and then cut out the panels that you want to use and glue them onto a piece of paper the way you want them to appear. Now, if your student is feeling intimidated by this activity and isn't quite sure where to begin, then pick a page in the graphic novel and have them simply recreate it. They can cut and paste panels on a page and then sketch this themselves. That way, they're still getting the experience without feeling intimidated to come up with the content. All right, I hope this walkthrough is helpful and that you feel encouraged and confident that you can use graphic novels in your homeschool.